Your project manager is almost finished, and it's going to be really exciting when all of your students have taken over these rows and each one of them has duplicated your classes and then filled in their checkboxes on each of their classes in order to keep track of their own progress. And while they're working here on the progress sheet, it'll be showing each of their work in real time. The third presentation on using the project manager with students is one that your students are going to walk through instead of you, so be prepared that that one is coming. A couple more things to do to this project manager to get it ready to share with students. Remember that when they take this over, they're going to be changing all these cells and all these rows, and they're going to be the ones who fix the programming here. But if you are worried about losing this thing, then now is a good time to make a copy of the entire project manager. If you want to, just make a copy of this and always be sharing a fresh copy every semester with your students so they don't mess up your original is one way to work. Also, some things to protect in here. The original first name, last name, class name sheet, my template, if you're going to keep that, make sure to protect it. This placeholder class name you can ignore, just leave it locked, please. And the progress sheet, you can't lock that because students need to be able to have access to it. But again, you could make a duplicate of that in order to, and then lock that duplicate to keep as a backup in case the students totally mess it up. One more important concept is protected ranges. Instead of locking an entire sheet, you can also lock parts of the sheet. So for instance, if you didn't want students to be able to change the second period row, you could just right click and choose protected ranges. There it is, protected range. And right now, I've got the progress sheet cells 29 through 29, row 29 selected all the way through. We could set the permissions for just those cells if we wanted to, if you didn't want, say, students to be able to protect it. Or a really important thing you might want to protect is, remember this master row where you could make big changes and then copy and paste this row across all of them? I highly recommend that now that you've made this master row look the way you want, you select that whole master row and then set its permissions so that only you can edit the master row. That way, if your students make a total mess out of the rest of the project manager or the rest of this progress sheet, you can always just go back to the original master, select it, and then copy and paste it over whatever their mess ups are. Students mess up this programming all the time. They put spaces in here or make little mistakes and they don't follow directions very carefully. And instead of trying to fix it or figure out what in the heck they did wrong, I often find it's easier to just go all the way down to the master row, make a copy of it, keyboard shortcut, go up to where that student got a row that messed up and just paste that copy directly over where the student messed it up, and then it's reset back to its starting position. So when this is totally ready, you can share it with students, lock and protect anything that you don't want them to mess up, and then the next tutorial, the next presentation is going to walk students through the process of duplicating a sheet, making that sheet be theirs, then going on to the progress page and taking over a row and setting up their row so it correctly tracks their progress from their sheet. You can just sit and watch. You might want to go through that presentation once yourself as a student just to practice it so you can anticipate the problems and things that are going to go wrong and kind of get a sense of what your students are about to go through. But again, that last presentation is just for students. So returning to this, oh yeah, that help sheet. So there's that sheet at the very beginning. I'm glad I checked that. If I scroll over, it's this help sheet right here. Remember, that is the very first thing you saw on when you opened up your project manager. It's just there for people who see this for the first time and need to get to the links to the tutorials. You don't need this anymore. You've got a permanent record of that same help thing here. If you want to click on that link here in the presentation, that gets to that. But now that you are done with your project manager, you don't need this help sheet anymore, and you can safely click on it and just delete that whole sheet. And it'll say, whoa, you sure you want to do that? Yes, you are fine. And now the front page of your project manager spreadsheet is the progress sheet, and that should be the front page. This should be the first thing that students see every day when they open up the project manager.